Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising as we return to our fundamental strand, I would say, for Humanity Rising, and that is the shamanic path, the indigenous mind, the primordial wisdom, and the Jaguar Path, which we'll touch on in a moment. But I want to frame our conversation today by just noting that over the last couple of days, we've had two very emotionally and I would say intellectually rigorous sessions that have in some ways been very hard to take. One to revisit the JFK assassination in 1963 and look at new information that's been emerging around JFK's UFO connection and how that might have contributed to the assassination plot that was headed apparently by uh, Alan Dulles, who JFK had fired as the director of the CIA. We visited with Danny Sheehan, who's really in some ways among the world's leading experts in the JFK assassination, who recounted the most concise presentation and narrative that I personally have ever heard about the assassination that I recommend to all of you who are interested in history and in the complexities of the interplay between the light and the darkness as it is refracted through politics and geostrategic movements between blocks of power. And then yesterday, we talked with Larry Wilkerson, who was the chief of staff for Colin Powell when he was both chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the Pentagon and Secretary of Defense, and then also when Colin Powell was the Secretary of State. And we looked at this extraordinary phenomenon of the lethality of nuclear weapons and the increasingly blasé way that U.S. high-level officials and high-level officials in NATO are beginning to speak about tactical nuclear weapons and winnable nuclear wars in the face of the reality that both superpowers have what they call the dead hand, that even if their command and control centers are completely wiped out, they have automated systems to launch thousands of intercontinental ballistic missiles to the other side. That the reality is that there's no nuclear winning. There's only nuclear complete catastrophe for humankind. And that this is happening within the backdrop of the emerging decline of the United States and the emerging technical, military, and conventional warfare superiority of Russia as probably the leading military power now in the world as the US power begins to decline. And that's a shocking thing to take in because for the last 80 years, the world has assumed US primacy, and that primacy is no longer in effect. And there's a new superpower that has demonstrated incontrovertibly the kind of technical and military superiority that has gained the victory in Ukraine and is now challenging the United States in all manner of ways that the American political elite has yet to take in, but increasingly the rest of the world is recognizing. It's a very interesting geostrategic movement of tectonic plates that is occurring right in front of our eyes. One of the characteristics of Humanity Rising that I love the most is the diversity of our presentations. We try to cover principally the code red issues of our time. What issues are pressing upon humanity, ranging from war and peace to climate change to the pandemic and health to youth at risk to all kinds of issues that are demanding human attention. And our meta theme, our meta purpose in looking at reality as ruthlessly, honestly as we can is to frame these challenging discussions within a commitment to empower humanity to rise. We all know that we teeter on the precipice of self-destruction. That is the central fact of our age. And we all know that the breakdown that is occurring is linked inseparably with the deepest capacity for breakthrough. And the breakthrough that we need to effectuate is linked to the breakdown that we are experiencing and witnessing at all levels of human civilization. This is driving modern humanity, which has distanced itself from nature, from an integral view of the cosmos, to the destruction that we see. And therefore, the deepest truth of our age, the wellspring of the breakthrough that we yearn for, comes from the indigenous mind, comes from the primordial shamanic understanding that we are one with nature, that we are nature. And it is our capacity not to distance ourselves from nature, which has caused the problems, but to return to nature and embed ourselves within the primordial wisdom that emanates out of life itself. This is the key to everything that we seek. And that's why from the very beginning, we've emphasized that Humanity Rising, the shamanic path, the indigenous mind, the mother tongue. And so it's in this spirit that I want to welcome Ray and Nina Crist to our program once again, who have convened various sessions on shamanic wisdom drawn from Peru and elsewhere, who are now located in Greece and are delivering what they call the Jaguar Path. And they're part of a academic partnership with Ubiquity University. So we're very honored by everything that they do. And I would say Ray and Nina are portals to the kind of inspiration and illumination that we all seek. And in this particular session today, they're going to be talking about the shamanic understanding of love. So, Ray and Nina, I welcome you with deep thanks and an open heart to Humanity Rising, and take it away. They'll make a presentation, and as usual, I'll circle back when they're done, and we'll dialogue for the balance of the time, and then they'll be joining the after chat. Thank you, my friends. Over to you.
Jim, thank you. Thank you. It's such an honor to be here again with you. And yeah, the topic they say today is love. And I would say so more needed than ever with everything that's happening today around the world.
Yes.
And I loved how you preface, how you open this, Jim, by saying that by recognizing that the shift, the fact that we moved away from nature, right? On one hand, it was the whole industrial revolution and technological revolution has given us our reality, a new reality, and even this that we're all together today throughout different parts of the world is one of the good things. But along with it came this alienation from nature. And the original alienation, and I won't stay with this too long, but I just love that you mentioned it, and I know it's the source of why we're here now, exactly like you mentioned it. Because there's a moment that we pulled away from nature, and as we pulled away from nature, and at some point, some people in the Middle Ages decided that it is between the beasts and the humankind as the most favorite creation of God. We created an anthropocentric reality that this is our domain, all of this planet, and we could do as we please with it, along with the rest of the residents, all the beautiful, beautiful thousands of species of other mammals. And along with the Dark Ages, and again, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but it's a subject that we've taken a dive into. It's like, where did we take the wrong turn, I should say. There was 3 things persecuted during the Dark Ages, and that was the feminine, first of all, women, animals, and magic. And I'll equate magic and love are the same thing. And we'll talk more about it. But what I feel has happened to us in humanity is, especially like all these other generations, the further and further away we're from that reality of nature, we've gone further away from our own nature. So we're seeking to find ways of being by just simply destruction and what we're witnessing and what is happening, by an expansion that is without any heart to it at all.
And you know, as Jim was introducing and so eloquently spoke about the mother tongue, the simple mind of the shaman's mind, and in this time that Ray is mentioning, the Dark Ages, where we were really pushed into this space of fear, this crippling paralysis of fear, and in that space, miracles don't exist, hope doesn't exist, and that affection that we witness in these indigenous cultures just simply cannot exist. It cannot thrive. It can't continue. And so coming back to this space of connection with this indigenous wisdom, coming back in connection with Mother Earth, and returning to simplicity, where we look at the pace of life has sped up and it just seems to be getting faster and faster and faster, and there's value that's been placed on speed and hurrying and being busy. And as this acceleration has continued, again, the energy keeps getting moved back into the adrenals, into the amygdala of the physical body, where the energy gets hijacked and we're no longer able to awaken and feel the activation where the shamans live, where they reside, which is in the heart, where the energy is in the prefrontal cortex, where we have compassion and tolerance and understanding. And so when we talk about the power of the shaman's love, we talk about a whole new structure, a whole new way of approaching life, a whole new archetype, a whole new format or program, if you will, or code. And so where we get a chance to step back or rise above the hurriedness of life, and we get a chance to maybe go to a cabin for a weekend or get a chance to go to the sea. Notice the difference in the energy body when we, even if just stepping outside and looking up to the sky and feeling the expansion of space, in those moments we are able to have some reprieve. And the shamans, being in the presence of these people that are connected to Earth, their every moment is rooted in the dirt, in the rhythms of nature, in the patterns, the frequencies of being really one with this earth. And I will say, the way that they view us as human beings is absolutely one with Mother Earth, animated Earth. So each one of us is an expression of this beloved Mother Earth. And I love that, because then it becomes like, wow, what an honor. I mean, to just kind of step in the wow, and then seeing this life as the magic. So when we come into that, it's like, if magic is persecuted and women are persecuted, but we all come from the earth. We all come from the mother.
And we're mammals.
Right.
The mammals are persecuted.
So then all of a sudden there's this kind of aha of like, well, what's the persecution against? And to start to release ourselves from the grip, release ourselves from that holding, and saying, wow, wait a second. I am going to fall in love with this life. I'm going to learn from these indigenous this indigenous wisdom. How can I truly love myself? Because in this, bringing the attention inward is the most powerful way that we can help the world, Mother Earth. All of the topics, the range of topics Humanity Rising discusses and shares and explores, all of these most important elements, dimensions of being human. As we explore them, we can see within ourselves, where is their resistance, where is their contraction, where is their inflammation, where is their excess or depletion. And so it becomes quite simple. We can return to the simplicity of stillness and quiet, and come into that place. And in that space, everything becomes really apparent. And I can say that simply, and yet how do we step from this moment of being in our office or in our home or in our, in our day-to-day life, how do we step from this moment and apply this ancient wisdom to our life, to really optimize our expression of being? Yes.
And I love that word. I'm going to just take that word and run with that one, optimizing, and to talk about love, because that's, again, I think you said it wonderfully, because we come from the feminine, we're born of mothers, we come from the earth, where we have the elements of the planet, like the periodic table. You take all this dirt and you create this crystals, carbon, it's like the same stuff. And of course, we're mammals like the rest of the mammals. So when we disconnected with the other mammals, we already lost our identity. I mean, who doesn't really like to wag their tail and purr and like relax? And we've lost that. But I want to say that my venturing into the jungles of Peru and up in the Andes, and I've shared in our previous session with Humanity Rising, a little bit of the story of getting a diagnosis of stage 4 cancer close to 18 years ago, actually 19 years ago, actually, and seeking to find healing. I found the shamans, and I found many shamans. Of course, I did find very tourist shamans that I walked away from, and I also found these amazing, genuine people that still, they're indigenous, born Indian, indigenous, of this blood, of the old blood, of this DNA that holds Mother Earth as the most important, the most holy, the most loving thing that exists in our reality. It's all our reality. And so as I healed through cancer, and I was going back and forth to NIH, the National Institute of Health, doing CAT scans and MRIs every 6 months, we watched these tumors disappear essentially, and I healed. And I was like, at one point, 4 or 5 years into my apprenticeship with the shamans, I decided that I was going to go down there and not leave before I would find out what is the most important,
most powerful
healing energy.
Effective.
And really, in my mind, it was like I was also trying to say, it's like, well, what was Christ's power? What did he use? It must be the same thing that these people are using. And I went in there, and I really was, to be honest, seeking some kind of like extra super power from out of this world.
Something mystical.
Something very mystical and mysterious and what have you. And I found something that was not mystical and not mysterious, but yet it is, maybe it's the heart of mysticism at the end, but I realized that their superpower is affection. Affection, affection, affection. That's what we all want to bring into our life. And we were having this conversation earlier with Nina. It's like, what do we teach? Why is the Jaguar Path created? We've created the Jaguar Path, and we'll share more about it, what we teach and why we teach it and how we teach it. Because we created for modern people. I mean, in my second to third year of already in my apprenticeship, one of my teachers, a couple of my teachers said, you need to start teaching. But essentially, Don Francisco said, go and teach. And I said, well, how am I going to teach it? I'm a white man from the West. It's like, how am I going to teach it? And he looked into my eyes, he held my hand, and he said, teach it in English. Teach it in English. And of course, that's more than me translating the Quechua language or the Spanish or creating handouts that took me years to do from translating and from trying to figure things out with them in the jungle or the mountain. But the understanding in English is like, how do we fit it in our mind and how do we get it? How do we get it?
That Western framework.
So for me, I've come to a great realization because I thought back in the day, the word that was, at least in my vocabulary, really cool was metaphysics, metaphysical. And what I realized that these people are not metaphysical at all. They're really real. They're down to earth, absolutely. And their power is affection, patience, and love. Love, 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 affection, affection, affection. Expressed affection.
Generosity.
Expressed generosity in their affection. Expressed. And the other thing I also realized is as I'm going in the jungles of Peru, I'm seeking to find something that's been lost, something that is in the brink of extinction. Where are the last shamans? And, ignorant little Western. I've come to realize that shamanism is not lost and it's not on the brink of extinction at all. It's been pushed out of Europe because thousands of women were hung, tens of thousands of women were hung if they did anything with magic, anything with affection, anything with healing.
Natural herbs.
Yeah, right. But so it's only gone as much as it is, and now it's coming back, and now we are bringing it back. Now it's in the universities, in Ubiquity University, we're bringing it back. So these people never lost that, and there's just so many tribes around the world, all of Africa, Central and South America, which we've traveled a lot through. The East, the Chinese medicine, it's all shamanic. Yoga is shamanic. And to really just call it out, these are the ancient sciences. 25 years ago, starting yoga, I started reading yoga philosophy, and now I know there's no such thing as philosophy in yoga. It's a deep science into the physiology, the neurology, and astrology. Three components that create our reality. What's happening within my emotional world, what's happening in my physical world, and what's happening around me. So I'd like to share, I think, two concepts that are really, really important in the shamanic work that we do, with the main lineage stemming from the Q'ero Nations people, who, when the conquistadors came to the Sacred Valley, they fled up to the mountains and hid for 500 years, only to start coming out in the 70s. They held intact their love for the earth, their love for the feminine, the love for the animals and the teachings for the animals, as well as the magic, right? The love for the magic.
And they held intact an ancient language, as Jim was mentioning, this mother tongue that's not influenced by any of this dark age. And so when they speak, we understand there's some main language, some main vocabulary we share in our school. And these words, Aini, Munai, it's like medicine. Just being in the frequency and listening to them offer blessings in this mother tongue, this ancient language that was spoken by so many people. And now it's phonetic. It's not. They're starting to create the alphabet now and try to really honor it. But it's been a phonetic language, and they've kept it alive way up in the Andes. And when we come in contact with this level of connection to earth, and you know, I've read about and I've studied the ancient texts, you know, since I was a teenager, and I read about animated earth, you know, being animated earth, and it's like our spirit is the energy that's animating the physical, right? So it's our spirit, and to witness the brightness, the glow of these beings, because they are so uninhibited, they are not restricted by the mind. They want to express affection. There are no limitations. They will immediately reach out and give you a hug. And at first, I will admit, as an American, there's moments where it's just, you know, socially uncomfortable or awkward, and it's taken me years to be able to just sit on the dirt and be in a, you know, in a nice embrace without feeling any part of myself responding from
resistance at
from
all.
previous ways of being. And I'm laughing because it's really funny. Energy moves as it becomes reoriented, being in their presence. It's like, oh my gosh, I've never given myself permission, and I didn't even know it, right?
It took me a second too, especially when we would take a bus and go through the Sacred Valley, and in the bus, my beloved Francisco would always have his hand on my hand, on my lap. It's just like, I love you, my brother. And I was like, in the beginning, I had this thing, and it's just like, why am I resisting love? Why am I resisting the most beautiful, clean love and affection of like, I'm holding your hand, you're going through cancer, I'll hold your hand through this. And
you're not alone.
And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to bring it into these two main words and to our training in our school and how it's designed, and because this is the time to dive into exploring oneself with these measures, with these technology, with this technology.
Yes.
So the first idea is the word munai and aini. And munai, talking of love, munai means love. But even more specifically, it means stay as you are. So imagine if you're talking to your beloved one, you're talking to your wife, your husband, you're talking to your children, right? And you say, hey, you are awesome as you are. You're awesome
right now.
as you are right now. You don't need to change anything. You don't need to change anything. I accept you. I admire you. And I have affection for you. So Munai has all this. It's love in action, yeah. Munai has these components of absolute acceptance, admiration, like, to see when you see your wife, when you see your husband, when you see your child, light up, let your whole being light up and say, oh my God, you walked in the room. Be as you are. You walked in the room and you're just awesome.
Yeah.
Munai.
And speak it, because in the presence of our beloved elders from Peru, you'll be sitting holding hands, and they'll just say Hatun Munai.
Hatun Munai. Hatun, the great love, the great.
And it's
Hatun.
like it bubbles up and out, and I say this, it's a practice, because I practice it with Ray, I practice it with Jason, our son, I practice it with our beloved cats, you know, with your pets, to speak it, not just assume that they know. And this is something that the elders have taught me, is to not only bring it into action and allow it to be an engaging experience that can just be simple. It doesn't have to be a big to-do, but to also speak it into the space. Yes, I can feel you.
Good. No, you feel the love in the space.
I love it.
Yeah, and the other word is aini. And aini, now, this is ancient, and talking about Quechua, this language that they preserved. And again, I want to say this for any academic will dive into it and feel this. It's like, this is a language that has not been tainted by the Dark Ages or the Spanish Inquisition or even the modern times. So in the vocabulary, love is abundant. The feminine is abundant. The animals are abundant, right? So aini, another Quechua word, means in correct relationship to, and it means reciprocity. This is an idea, and when I start saying that Quechua was spoken from South Mexico all the way to Patagonia, all the islands from Jamaica all the way down to the Virgin Islands, etc., the Caribbean, and what we know as Caribbean and Virgin Islands. There's more than 120 million people that spoke Quechua, and more than 120 million that have disappeared after the Spaniards arrived, bringing the blankets with
Is it smallpox?
smallpox.
Yeah.
120 million people vanished from the face of the earth. This is the biggest genocide that is just not known or mentioned. But to keep it in love and to keep it in this tone, Aini now meant, my best translations through 19 years of trying to put it together, one of them is incorrect relationship to. But even more importantly, the root, when the teachers, when our beloved ones speak, is it's the understanding. When I am willing to water a tree, when I'm willing to give, that's my predisposition. I show up in a room, in a space, and say, how can I help today? You know, give me anything. Give me the dishes to do, I'll paint the wall, or I teach the children, or I'll take the dog out for a walk, or I'll make an analysis. What can I do within my abilities? But they say is like, when you are willing, thus, in that way, when you water the tree will give you back shade to cover you. It will give you back fruit to eat. It will give you back lumber to make a house, wood to light a fire. It will give you back oxygen. It will create an environment for birds so you can hear birds. The list can go on and on.
Yeah.
And this is something we lost, something we forgot. As long as we could stay in the state of willingness and openness, as long as we show up and we say, how can I help today? We will automatically live in a very, very different world, right? So I'll stay with the positive, and I'll say, obviously that's not what's happening. People are taking rather than giving. So if we come back, and a lot of people are giving, for sure.
Well, and I think that's a big theme, and another huge teaching that I've received from the shamans, and we teach it. One of the main tools that we share in our school is an ancient practice called cord cutting. And I'll share just a quick summary. Basically, the shamans say, when you're living your life, you want to have an awareness of the different qualities of relationship that you have in your life. And there's some that are kind of optional, and there's some that are, built due to family members or children or those types of relationships that are really primary. But they have us look and kind of rise above in this condor view and feel into and scan your life with this, the greater picture of your life, and really feel into the relationships in your life that are symbiotic. And in nature, we see these symbiotic relationships where there's this balance of give and take, and there's really this beautiful, and really optimizing each other's quality of life, right? Boosting each other. And there's this infinite abundance in those relationships. It just keeps on generating more energy and life and vitality. And then we also see in nature parasitic relationships where one species is drawing the life force out of another. And so we want to look at our relationships and really feel into what are the qualities and how can I show up differently to conserve my energy and honor my sacred boundaries so that I can continue on my mission. I can show up as the best wife, the best mother, the best XYZ, whatever it is that your mission is, however it is that you like to contribute and to serve in this world, so that it's on your terms as much as possible. And so the word Aini has so much dimension. It goes beyond just the translation of correct relationship to, it becomes really the foundation of these indigenous cultures where they will say, one day we work on your field and the next day we work on the neighbor's field. And instead of everybody in their own space efforting and struggling, the whole community gets together and puts a focus,
one another.
Right, and really allows for so much more to be accomplished. And in that feeling of accomplishment, there's also community, and there's unity, and there's purpose. And that's where you see the affection, because there's a gratitude that's woven into the structures, into the fibers of society and the systems that support society. And again, coming back to the simplicity and the patterns of nature, these elders are the scholars. They're the scholars of Mother Nature. They have studied her, every move, the rise of the sun, the setting of the sun, the moon, the qualities of energy,
the seasons, and everything that is happening. There's like an essential, on one hand, it's the way we've complicated things and how many layers of things and how much we have to do with our computers, with our emails, with our work, it's just like with TVs, with Facebooks, with like, there's just so many things now. Things are complicated. So the word simple doesn't even exist anymore. And the simplicity is hard to get to because it's hard for our minds to soften, to soften and to slow down. So I want to open it to share why first of all, when I was in my third year of being cancer-free and things were looking up, my teacher said, now you need to teach this. If you want to remain cancer-free, you need to teach this. And it is very clear that because I realized that this is not some extraterrestrial or superhuman power, they're not Superman, they're not but they have these techniques. I realized that all the tools that they helped me with were psychological tools, or all the tools that they have are essentially psychotherapeutic tools that use a lot of symbolism and that really help the brain reorient. The Greeks, the ancient Greeks, being here now in Greece, in front of the temple of Hippocrates, where we have our new place, Socrates talked about know thyself. And it is such a deep and essential meaning, because it's not about knowing. It's like when you say know thyself, it's not about me knowing about who Ray is or Nina knowing who Nina is. First of all, it's about understanding and knowing our nature. What's this body made of and how does it function? What are these emotions made of and how do they work? So the ancient Greeks said, well, if you work on your mind, on your body and your spirit, you have to work on each one of these separately. You need to work on your mind. You have to start controlling your mind. Controlling in the sense of taking over, because
having an awareness.
Most of us, we just have thoughts and we're constantly thinking and thinking and thinking, and we're letting our mind control us. And especially when negative thoughts are coming up, and a lot of negative thoughts and a lot of fear is coming up, and worry and fear, then we lose all our energy, then we're not in an optimal place. So when you heal your body, then there's not triggers inside your body. So in essence, we've created this 9-month training along with the elders, with a lot of help of the elders, and a lot of help with Nina's ability to put things online, and from napkins and pieces of paper in places of Peru to be now online and in the membership site, ready for you. It's been a while. It's been a good 18 years, and it is wonderful because we've been running. This is our 20th time we run this 9-month training.
Yes.
And we have graduated over 1,000, I want to say healers, but not all of these people decided to become healers. A lot of them were doctors, a lot of them were therapists, a lot of them were yoga teachers, body workers. Most of them used it to change their life. And with this 9 months, you go through this 9 months, you get to know thyself in the sense it's like understanding a lot of things about physiology, a lot of things about our hormonal state and where our emotions live. Because if I say, I used to think that when I would get angry, anyone ever get angry at something, when I would think something is not fair and I would get angry about it, I would say, well, my anger comes from the fact that there's something happening that is against my values or against humanity rights, right? And in that sense, yes, that's the trigger. But my anger lives in my body. What comes up, the steam, the fire, the whatever it is, the expression I'm going to use is inside me, right? The trigger is that what's happening outside. And many times, all of our emotions are valid, and many times they're here to tell us things. If we can know thyself, and get to know how these emotions work, then we're able to use them as telltales. When I'm angry at something, it's come to tell me something, that something might need to be changed. I might have to go, like you very well said, I might have to go to Conder's eye view and see, is this relationship, is this partnership or whatever, is this symbiotic or is it parasitic? Am I always losing? Am I always draining my energy? So there's a lot, and I think maybe if we share, I think the screen, just to get an idea of the three trimesters that we share on the Jaguar Path.
Yes, and I will say before I share the screen that the entire training that Ray's just mentioned, this 9 months to rebirth, is a gift really that you've paid forward as your healing journey. So this is the journey that Ray walked to heal himself. And after healing himself, he was then asked to pay it forward and create the school and to share this wisdom in the way that he was able to receive it. So I'll just share the screen. And what's really, really exciting, the first weekend we share the 9-month training, we did our first session, but this weekend we have a recap of session 1 that you'll see. And in this particular session, you learn how to do the cord cutting that I was mentioning earlier. And it's one of the first tools. It's one of the first shamanic tools that we share in the training. Along with the tools, we also share the practice of Tai Chi and yoga. The yoga that we share is influenced by traditional Chinese medicine. And the reason we share the movement practices are to support the cultivation of energy and to really allow the healing to take to that next level. Because the morning session we do the movement and discussion, and then the afternoons we deliver the shamanic tools through demonstration and lecture, and then application experiential, so that you get a chance to receive it and offer it. And then we workshop it and get a chance to hear challenges, successes, and of course, answer any questions and clarify anything.
So yeah, now I want to say this to because you touched the yoga and Tai Chi. They're all beginners yoga and beginners Tai Chi, even chair yoga, chair Tai Chi. Several of our students are not on the mat. They're doing it on the chair. Others are doing it on the mat. Nothing to be afraid of. The understanding of, first of all, moving the body so we can receive, so you can receive, the students can receive the information, not in their head, but to receive it in their body. And this information that you can receive through your whole being becomes new consciousness, rather than more information. And here, this is perfect, and we'll talk about this. Is the essence, the heart. One of the first things that I learned when I went down there and I talked to Don Francisco, he said, we have if you go to Peru, if you've been in Peru, you already know this, but there's like, especially in the Sacred Valley, there's little statues of it that are like little totems of a serpent, a jaguar, and a condor. And that's the shamanic, the Inca trilogy, they call it. And Francisco started talking to me about the serpent and how it teaches us how to shed its skin. How it sheds its skin, it teaches us how we can let go of previous ideas, previous trauma. We could shed that. We can let it physically go out of our body. And then he went on and talked about the jaguar. That the jaguar, because it's on the top of the food chain, it has no fear. And it's like, on the contrary than us, because we're way in the bottom of the food chain, it has no fear. So it teaches us how to think with no fear. And then when he got to the condor, he said, well, the condor is like, allows us to rise above, see the greater picture of our life, see with clarity and discernment the relationships we have, or where we're at and where we want to go. And even more importantly, Francisco said that the condor teaches us, reminds us that we are connected with the divine, as the condor always flies wing to wing with the Great Spirit. And when I heard that, when they came to the condor, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. I've been studying yoga all this time, and we're talking about the body, the mind, and the spirit. And like the ancient Greeks, the yogis of India, the Taoists who created the Tai Chi and acupuncture and the Chinese medicine, talk about these three perceptual states. So knowing thyself means we can get to study. And let's look at this for a moment. As we look at the first 3 months, again, starting this next Sunday, we have the foundations of shamanism. We learn about the energy body and cutting cords from previous relationships. We learn about what the energy healing is about. And I'm going to say this because way before I met the shamans, I thought there was a lot of woo-woo mysterious stuff happening. And there is not. When we're talking about energy, we're talking about electricity in the body and chemistry, our hormonal, our endocrine system. That's the energy, and that's the energy that really defines us, and we can actually shift around. right? And then in our third session of the first trimester, we go into shamanic journeys. And this is a place where we start bringing back the respect, the understanding for the wisdom of other animals, and also liberate our own little mammal inside us. It's like, get back to, it's okay if I wag my tail. It's okay if we purr in the afternoons. It's like getting back to deep emotions that we are cut off from. And even more so to get into the power. It's like, I walk, obviously we have the Jaguar Path, I walk with my Jaguar. I feel its power, I feel its presence, and I've learned everything there is to know, right? About jaguars, how they hunt, how they move, how they mate, how they are.
Everything.
And that has expanded me as a person, as all the animals we study through these shamanic journeys. Right? The second trimester is the Jaguar, right? We're going into thinking. So the first trimester is about letting go of trauma and releasing stuff that's hold us from in our body, letting go of trauma. The second trimester is changing the way we think. Because it is really clear to all of us, especially in this group of people, that politics have never changed anything. Century after century, they're just recycling, aristocracy, oligarchy, and then it becomes revolution, and then again and again. So politics don't solve things. We need to start thinking differently, and we learn how to track and see. So when I'm talking to someone, I'm listening to the words, but there's just so many more things, their energy, their body language, their eyes, their tone of voice. We learn how to expand and use more of our 5 senses for every interaction in our life. That by itself, if we just did that, changes your entire life. Because think about it, many times, or at least I'll make a nice statement. I used to go around 20 years ago before I met all this. And when people were talking to me, I was thinking what I'm going to answer. I was thinking what I was going to eat. I was thinking other things. We do that. But now I don't. Now I am noticing how Nina is breathing. I can feel her collarbones and what's happening with her eyes, what's happening when she speaks, where's her tone of voice. I can get so much more information because I am more present. And then we learn about language. We break down words because language really holds us prisoners in so many ways. So we go into this whole idea, and it's really a science. Easy to do, easy to approach. These tools are very clear. But, when we have a word, like for example, let's say, betrayal, when I broke down that word, I discovered that word somewhere in my head was translated as beat Ray with a rail, betrayal. Beat Ray with a rail. We change our relationship with words, and these practices are like nothing else. And they're ancient, and they work, and they're still around today because they work. And I'll just jump to the condor and say, at that third trimester, we really go into understanding a life force. We go into becoming essentially in a space of discernment, where when we sit in the company of people, and people may be expressing other opinions than ours, we're okay with that. We never need to defend what we love or what we think. We allow it to be what it is, because that way we can essentially help more what we do, offer it more to the world.
Yes.
So,
and as you see, we're so happy to be sharing this as a degree program through Ubiquity University. And so we meet one weekend a month from 9 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. We take an hour-and-a-half lunch break in the middle of the day on Saturday and Sunday. And for our program, you have lifetime access to the recordings, to all the resources, supportive materials, and to our beloved community. So I'll drop the link to this in the chat. So if you're wanting to take a peek at the website at your own time, on your own time, I'll put it here. And of course, we'll be in the after chat to share more with anyone that may have questions about the training. But what's really beautiful, and we had a studio in New England for years, and now we're online as really a good push, a nudge from the universe during the time that we all needed to get online. And what that's done is it's really shown us, and actually a lot of sessions with the elders, with the shamans from Peru online with us, now we're able to share all of the tools, both how to do them in person. So Ray and I demonstrate how to do the tool in person. And then we also share how you can offer it virtually. And so all of the tools you have the capacity to do both in person and virtually, which is really unique and exciting. And it does allow for an international community, which is really needed at this time, as the elders continue to tell us the most important thing to accomplish in this life is to fall in love with yourself, and not in an arrogant, egotistical way, because that's where my mind went the first time I heard that, or where I felt like, how could I fall in love with myself? I almost like, that's not, and now it's like so fun to witness each individual that joins our community, witness them fall in love with themselves, or people that already have a deep love for self.
To respect yourself,
Yeah,
to honor yourself.
and to witness that, and to have a community of people coming together with that commonality is powerful. And that's what these indigenous communities, these villages, were able to offer one another, is loving thyself, not only knowing yourself, but once you understand the chemistry and how you can support yourself and what you're eating, all of the energy that contributes to our life, and to the life force, our energy that we bring into life, is like what we're eating, who we're spending our time with, what we're listening to, what we're reading, what we're watching, the time we spend in nature, all of these different things. When we can really come into this space of supporting ourselves and really being a parent to ourselves, and honoring and caring for this being as our first priority, there's so much power that we can offer the world, and we don't need to try to look out to save the world. It truly is this turning our attention inward, and that's the most beautiful gift that the elders have preserved for humanity. And this is how humanity will rise. We will rise by rooting down.
We will rise with love. We will rise with love.
We will root into nature. And then the further we root and get ourselves embedded in Mother Nature, the more we can rise up and connect with the cosmos and connect with this divine light that we witness every day, with the sun and the moon and the stars, and more than
the
anything,
rivers and the trees and the birds.
More than anything, each other. And that's the light that we have within. And that's what the shamans share with us, of how to illuminate and receive the light from the world more, and to be able to offer our inner light, without any filter, without any limitation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And I feel that what I've learned through them is that the more I love and the more I offer love, the more my well is refilled. The more you give, the more you receive. The more you give, the more you receive. It's endless. Yeah. So we would be very happy to, for anyone interested to learn more, to hear more about it, to come into the after chat. And I feel like it might be close to time to bring it home.
I think we covered everything. Yeah.
we covered everything. We touched a little bit on everything. But I want to say yes in closing that the theme today is love. And if we could just bring this more to the world, we will, and we can. And it's about working on trusting ourselves to love more and spread it out.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, my friends. In the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. As the Beatles say on their Abbey Road
All there is love
album. It's as simple as that, actually. And I want to tease out a few aspects of what you commented on. First, the last point that you made, Nina, which is probably the most overlooked aspect of love. That the greatest thing we can do in our lives is really fall in love completely and hopelessly with ourselves. And, it reminds me of the great command of Jesus. You love your neighbor as you love yourself. You can't love others any more than you love yourself. And, this self-hatred and self-loathing, even though it's clothed in ways that we don't understand, really affects our capacities to be everything that we know we can be with others, but we think that love is an externalization of some act of will to love rather than an emanation of the self-love that's already there inside. So I just wanted to underscore that because that's such a fundamental point to make about the nature of true love.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Really well said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any comment you want to make?
Oh, yeah. And I think that as you were saying that, this self-hatred, it's somehow cloaked in being responsible. I need to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
responsible I need to be ready to prevent any possible catastrophe that could happen at any moment. And it's like, where all of a sudden all of our energy is getting pulled to the what ifs, and oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that, or I shouldn't have, or I could have done this, or I should have. And all of that is being responsible, being a good person, and
being realistic.
And being realistic.
Yeah.
And when we think about that, who's holding us accountable to this standard? It's a standard that's an illusion. And so when we can dissolve that illusion and give each other permission to stop and say, whoa, you're doing a great job. Do you need a cup of tea? Do you need what do you need? Do you need to step outside and get a couple breaths of fresh air? That takes 1 minute. Do it for yourself. And that permission, I think, is what we can offer one another as brothers and sisters in this world that has quite a bit of tension and charge and polarity.
Yeah.
Let's step back and take a deep breath and love ourselves.
And that's
just in your word, be realistic, Ray. Since I'm in Washington, D.C., that word reigns supreme.
I bet.
And so what's squeezed out of every conversation is any emotion, any empathy, any affirmation of the other, any notion of caring, because that's perceived as unrealistic and weak. So that self-censorship, to Gabor Mate's title of his last book, The Myth of Normal. We think this realism is normal, but it actually is a construction of complete delusion.
Absolutely. And the pillars we have in the school, the environment we create on being with everyone is acceptance, admiration, and affection.
Yeah.
Triple A, it's just like to the rescue. It's everything we really need as the amazing, beautiful mammals that we are.
Yeah. Now I want to go back to the initial comment that you made, Ray, because I think that really is worthy of unpacking, and that's the relationship that you were drawing between love and magic. Because, the feminine and animals, that's pretty not simple, but it's obvious that we should not be treating women like animals, and we shouldn't be treating animals like we're treating the women in a subordinating, coercive way. But magic is a much more subtle phenomenon, and because there's white magic and there's black magic. So would love to have both of you speak a little bit more deeply about this relationship between love and magic, because that's not obvious.
I'll start, but it's going to take 9 months. if you're all ready, I'm trying to do it in 30 seconds. I'll give you the 30-second version of the 9-month training, which is what it's all about, right? But in essence, so when I was there and trying to figure out what the magic was, how they magically would cure me, and I was on my knees in front of Francisco, I said, please heal me. I'm dying. I have a 2-year-old boy back home and I'm going to die of cancer. And he grabbed me with the shoulders and helped me stand up and said, I can't heal you, but I can teach you how to become a shaman and you could heal yourself. And boy, did I stand up. It was the first moment after 5 years of being in hospitals, from Johns Hopkins to NIH to other hospitals in Greece. It's like, where all of a sudden I said, whoa, I can do something about it. It's not the experts only. And the first, I said, so start teaching me. And the first thing he started teaching me about was self-love. So love love is a great thing that Buddha talked about, Christ talked about. Love, in essence, is what holds together an atom, what holds together the cells of a body to create a body, what holds together the planets that move around the sun and the whole universe. There is this thing that's not seen, that's everywhere, everywhere and always, that holds together reality, that reality, the real reality. And that is love. It's an energy. It's not the love that we were like talking about, oh, I'm like feel lonely and I'm seeking to find love. And usually when we seek to find love, we try to seek to find love the way we received that as children from our parents. And that could be anything from great love to poor love to abandonment to things. And then we try to replicate it. So but when you reach this moment where through meditation you tap into love, what happens is magic. In the body, your endocrine system aligns with two big main things that align, two big glands align. The heart as a gland, because the heart produces hormones, BHP, and the pituitary gland. And when they align together, what happens is this resonance that emanates a healing energy throughout the whole body. And then once you start feeling that, then you look outside of you and you see the synchronistic lines. You see the love in everyone. You see the love in the people that are trying. You see the love in the person that is yelling at you. And you see how the moment they're suffering, instead of taking this as an insult, you see how they're suffering when they're yelling, even at you. You don't take it personally. You understand their own contraction and their own suffering at the moment. And instead of closing down and yelling back, you open your heart more and you lean in. And things begin, the magic is right there. The magic is amazing, how synchronicities line up and how life begins to unfold in a very, very different way.
And I'll just add, the idea that magic doesn't exist is, I think, the biggest illusion that we've been fed, because look at everything around you right now is a miracle. Everything is magic.
Everything
and
is
so
magic.
the shamans are in this real sweet innocence of just celebrating all of the, they pick a potato and they're like, look, it's like, this is magic. The earth just gave us a potato. And so there's this excitement and enthusiasm and appreciation and gratitude. And in that space, everything becomes easy, everything becomes possible, because the mind isn't limited to the limited scope of what reality is. Reality, all of a sudden, in this space of love and hope and appreciation, reality expands into this infinite possibility. And truly, anything that we want to create on this planet, we can do. And that, to me, is the ultimate magic. And I think each one of us has experienced it, whether it's been just a glimmer or if it's a way of being. But this magic is ever present and it's all around us. And one of my favorite
contagious
quotes,
too.
My favorite quotes from one of our beloved shamans is, "Stop dismissing the apparent." And we only dismiss the apparent when we're distracted, right? And so if we can all slow down enough not to be distracted, then we can return to the way of the shaman and come back to simplicity of
love.
magic.
And how do you actually define magic? What's magic for you?
I want to say two things to that, because
I will speak to it.
That when you feel that, when you're in it, what's happening is that you're actually getting a lot more blood in your heart, more blood in your heart, more blood in your brain, and there's a sensation that is really physical. It's felt and it's clear that everything around is magic. There is a clarity that comes, and even the eye, the vision expands. Your peripheral vision expands. There's a physical reality to this. And now magic is everywhere. That in that state, when you're not being DC realistic, you can see the magic in the expansion of everything. And what is magic? Magic is my being healed from cancer. Magic is people changing reality. Magic is changing everything that you want, you can actually be. And the only thing holding us back is this fake, or this understanding of lack. Because when you feel the physicality of this love inside you, you are so fulfilled that you have no lack, which means that you live in abundance and you realize that everything that you want will come. Everything that is made for you, you will receive.
And I will speak to, because you mentioned the black magic and white magic. And so in our school, we only share, when we teach healing, it's all in light and love. And what we also teach is, in that space you are protected. In that space you are not susceptible. You're not predisposed to receiving anything that's not love, anything that's not healing. But where we look at the different wisdom practices, we look at, there's the unmanifest realm, the energy realm, and then we think something, we feel something, we bring it into the words, which we start to bring it into this material realm, and then we change the physical matter, the reality of the physical body or our home or our job or whatever magic it is that we're experiencing. So we take the energy from the unmanifest, we bring it into a denser form, into the manifest. And so that's a process that we, as we practice, we can become, they say, masters of. And how do you become a master of it? You stop being distracted by other things that are keeping you from what it is that you're manifesting, whatever that is to support your mission. But it's truly changing reality.
Yeah. Maureen is just putting in the chat the famous quote from Arthur C. Clarke, that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
I love that.
And then her comment is that we are the ultimate technology, and it is within each of us. We are our own magic.
Yes.
So someone like, Jesus of Nazareth, who could walk on water and raise the dead and so forth, was simply operating at a higher level of resonance with the laws that exist for all of us. But because we're blinded by our self-loathing,
Yes.
we're not able to see it.
Yep.
Yes.
And so when he walks on water, we call that a miracle or call that magic, when in reality, it's the ultimate realism.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love this conversation. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Jim.
Yeah. Listen, one other question that was emerging in my mind as I was listening to you, and that is the relationship that we in the modern world should be inculcating with the shamanic. Because it's and I think this is really a challenging aspect that I'd like to have you further illuminate. I've been to the jungles of Amazonia and Stone Age cultures where they're living in the jungle and the nature is real. They feel it. But then many times we've brought to various conferences people from the jungle to, the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco, air conditioning and banquet halls and, flying on airplanes and so forth and so on. And they often say that what is natural in the jungle becomes in some ways unnatural in the accoutrements of modernity. That it's more challenging to be natural when you're in an unnatural environment.
Yeah.
Right? Well, 70% of the human race now, and maybe it's a higher percentage, are all living in massive urban sprawls.
Yeah.
And we're cut off from nature. So as we close, I'd love to have both of you just comment on, the pathway to the natural when you're in an unnatural environment.
That's awesome.
I will say kind of quickly, you are nature, so we can never be cut off. And as I say that, I can feel almost a contraction of someone in an apartment in the middle of the city saying, yeah, but, and I hear you and I feel you, and it's saying, now dissolve through your breathing. Feel the mammal breathe itself. Feel your body breathing, and start to become the student and dissolve the barrier between this illusionary separation of your physical body from nature. You are the microcosm. You are the microcosm. So we have every aspect of Mother Nature within our living being. It's phenomenal. And at the same time, step outside, get a breath of fresh air, and look up to the sky. No matter what city we're in, we can get to that space of infinite expansion, and that is that lifeline. And in Quechua, they call it the Inti Waitana, the hitching post to the sun, to the divine. So we have that anchor, and we can keep that connection.
And I want to say just that we just had our beloved teachers here, Don Francisco, his wife Juana, Dona Juana, and our beloved Don Wilbert, who's also a shaman, and they all came here to Greece for a week. So we went to the ancient sites, but we were in modern places, and I was watching them. I had exactly that thought. I was watching them, how they're in a bus, how they're, and one of the things and these are people that have become family. I've been working with them for 18 years. We're like family, we're close. We've raised our children together. I've seen their children, my son. But the essence is that they are unchanged. When they go into their hotel, they realize that it's an unrealistic place, and they can see how it confines everyone else and how people create their reality around that, from the big city to this technology, which is also a great thing. As it's connecting us now. But I watch them being unwavering. They don't care what car they're in. They don't know the difference. No. If it's a VW or if
they're inside or outside.
They don't see a difference. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters that is matter. What matters constantly to them is the connection, the aini, if they're in correct relationship, and expressing munai, that love. Everyone that walks in the room, we love you. Everyone that walks in the room, we love you. Staying in the center. So they've learned, and that's what we teach, is like, how can I find my center amidst everything else happening outside of me? Yeah. Because I can't change what's happening outside of me.
Yeah, that reminds me what you're saying, Ray, of what they observed about Thich Nhat Hanh. They said that no matter what situation he was in, he never left primary consciousness.
That's it.
He just was, he was always in just primary consciousness, whatever was happening around him. And I remember I used to do some big international conferences with Mikhail Gorbachev back in the old days, between 1995 and the year 2000. And at one of them, we brought Thich Nhat Hanh. And I located him, since I was the conference organizer, I located his presentation right in the middle of the event.
Perfect.
But I didn't say anything to anyone. And it was sort of after a break, and there was a lot of bustling and so forth and so on. And he just came up on stage, and instead of me introducing him, he just walked up on the stage and went into lotus position and just got quiet. Nothing was said. And people kept talking, and then all of a sudden people began to realize there was this monk sitting up on the stage who was completely quiet. And the room got more and more and more silent. And he didn't move. And people started to look around, because normally when they get quiet, the guy's supposed to talk. And he didn't obey that cue. And he just kept his presence sitting there on the stage.
Yes.
And then at the exact right moment, he began to speak. And I have seldom seen anybody have more of an impact on an audience than a person who could come in and not leave primary consciousness. Because normally when you're going to speak in front of like all these people, you know, and
Gotta think,
get
yeah.
really nervous and you lose primary consciousness. And he just stayed right in it. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch. And it was an inspiration for me, observing just how seldom I can catch primary consciousness and how easily I lose it. I'm sure that never happens to the two of you. But that's a very interesting phenomenon that you're pointing to.
It's perfect, and what you're saying is like that. I think that that's the essence of the whole training. At the end, if I would say one thing, I mean, we teach 18 tools to work with the body, to work with the mind, and so all these tools, again, psychotherapeutic tools that really shift the way you think. And the primary thing, talking about primary consciousness, that happens is that you begin to become the witness. So when you're thinking from not primary consciousness and you're thinking from what we call in the training the narrator, you catch yourself thinking. You catch yourself thinking and saying, oh, now I'm worrying. Now I'm saying I'm not good enough. Now I'm saying this is not possible. I'm saying this is not realistic. And I know all these statements are not true. So when I hear myself begin to think that, I catch myself and I say, hey, loving Ray, because I love myself. Hey, loving Ray, where love is not there. Love is a little bit over here to this side. It's not about worrying. It's not about not enough. It's not about any of all that. And you immediately begin to calm yourself. And instead of letting yourself go into the worry and spin out hormonally with your nervous system and endocrine system going out of balance, then you're miles away from the primary consciousness. So you at least, which is huge, live quite closer to primary consciousness. Right? We are not Thich Nhat Hanh.
No.
And we live a different life because it's not our lineage either. Thich Nhat Hanh had that lineage to stay for days, 40 days and 40 nights in total silence. This is not a part of our lineage, but we can stay in silence amidst the turmoil.
And be comfortable.
We can be comfortable with not speaking or not having to defend things or having to have emotions about things and just go around in this what do you call it? The
hamster wheel?
Hamster wheel of emotions that so many times so many people do.
Yeah, and Cynthia Bledsoe's putting in this notion of the law of attraction, because I think when one is in that state of calm, one becomes an attractor just energetically.
Absolutely. Right.
And that's love. That love is the great attractor, right? Love is the great assembler, the amalgamator of all that is, because of the purity of being of love.
And has all that is and has always been. And when you're in that, again, there is a visceral sensation that changes within how you're feeling. Your senses are heightened, and you realize that you're in absolute abundance. I see all these things like in Facebook and Instagram, and people say, get 6 figures, you can make 7 figures, and everyone thinks that happiness is in money. Everyone has persuaded everyone that if you have money, and we've met all kinds of people, from the poorest people, because we travel in third world countries, we live in third world countries, but to very rich people. And I will say right out, the richest people we've met are the happiest people I've met. The most complete people I've met are those who have practices, who have a full life with their family, with what they're doing as a career, with appreciation, with time to do what they love, with time to share with the family and others. And everyone else is just running for this happiness, which is an incompletion because, you know, my beloved cousin just bought a new car a week ago, and yesterday she scratched it.
It's like, no.
She banged it. She banged it on this post. And it was just like, now it's not, it's because a new car cannot give you happiness. It will for 20 hours, but maybe 40, you know, it's going to run out really fast. It's not going to
until that first scratch.
that first scratch, and then you're like, ah.
We can laugh about
And then you have to learn to let all that go. And then when you start letting all that go, you see that the teachings about materialism are not a philosophy, but it's an endocrine reality of what endocrine reality am I living in? where do I live? Am I feeling love in my thoughts behind me when I'm just hanging out at the red light? I'm thinking of love, I'm thinking of sweetness, I'm thinking of healing. Or am I sitting there and I'm thinking, it's like, whoa, why can't I get that bigger car or the bigger house? So it's a different reality. You live in a different reality, and that love, being in love and loving yourself anywhere from being like a child, you get the chance to raise yourself again, because now your mother is Mother Earth, now your father is the sun, and you begin to let go of these stories of not being good enough or not this or that or any traumas that you had. You clear them out, and then things become simple. It's a 9-month complicated process, but it's very clear, step by step by step by step. And what happens is you have a neurological shift in this 9 months of the training. A neurological shift. You now, if you take, I mean, it's something we should start doing. Do like a hormone test, get all your hormone levels in the beginning and at the end, and see it. This is what all the students tell us. This is what everyone says.
Well, that's
it's
your
like,
personal experience.
and it's the personal
And
experience
mine,
of
of
shift.
course. Yeah.
I
Well,
love
we
it.
get
Instead of a before and after photo, you have a before and after hormone test.
Totally, totally. That's your reality. That's your reality.
That's right.
It's all
That's
your
right.
reality.
Well, thank you so much, dear ones.
Yeah.
This has been a wonderful session. I urge all of you to look at the Jaguar Path. You might put the link in the chat while we're closing up here. Um, it's a very powerful course that is going to transform your awareness and perception and transform your inner state and your external reality at the same time. So thank you both very, very much. You can join Ray and Nina in the after chat. Stan just put the link in the chat box. You received a link in your Zoom reminder for today. And then tomorrow we're going to go to Sweden, and we're going to talk with a woman who's been a very successful businesswoman and consultant, and who tries in her domain to bring love and compassion into the business sector, which may be the most challenging task in our world. So that'll be tomorrow on Humanity Rising. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ray and Nina. We'll see you down the
Thank you,
trail.
Jim.
See everybody tomorrow. Bye for now.